Alright, Diablo players, you ready to see one of the most interesting builds in the game, which is actually a poison build that does actually revolve around crit and overpower, which honestly it should not work this way, but hey, play it while you can. It's something to mix it up. If you guys are tired of playing the Quill Volley build, I can highly recommend you guys to go ahead and play this. It does billions of damage, it's relatively fast, and it is incredibly tanky with its recovery. There's really nothing else in the game that's going to give you this amount of recovery. It is actually pretty busted. Even if they nerf the damage, the survivability on this one is way higher than pretty much most of the stuff that even exists in the game, and I think they need to really look at how powerful this build actually is. Now, just as a warning, as a heads up, if you guys have already played the Quill Volley build, that build is still going to be the strongest build in the game, but I wanted to deliver something different. If you guys want the strongest Spiritborn in the build, it is still definitely going to be the Quill Volley build, which I will link down below. But this build is definitely comfortably able to go up to, I would say, 100, 110. If you really want to push with it, you can, but there are technically better options for this build if you want to go for the highest push build. But I'll go ahead and link a Quill Volley build just in case some of you guys want to play the strongest build in the game. Now, this build is still very, very powerful. You can, again, go up to 100, which is important to go ahead and level up your glyphs, but I'm just doing speed runs here so I can start leveling up some other stuff for other builds. But what it comes down to is we are going to be using Stinger, so this is a poison build. So for starters, let's go over some of the important notes here. So Stinger actually works in ways where I don't think it was intended to, but let's go ahead and kind of explain this. So there is a key passive called the Noxious Resonance, which is going to make it so your crit strikes will cause your poison on an enemy to burst, dealing 100% of the total poison damage instantly to them and 20% of it to the surrounding enemies before removing the poison effect from the primary target. Now the damage gets increased by 30x of your crit strike damage bonus. This is our number right here. It is 1375. Keep in mind, you're going to have to go into the area to actually see this number. Don't check this number in town because it won't be accurate. Go outside, hit a couple things because there's all these little bonuses that won't show up in town. But at the moment, you can get this up to crazy. I'm talking 1,000 plus. If I min-max this, you could probably get upwards of like 2,000. I just kind of roughly threw this together just to try it out, and it was actually surprisingly really good. Normally, what you wouldn't want to do is scale crit on poison builds, but the reason why it actually works with Stinger is Stinger actually interacts with two different damaging types. So for starters, Stinger is a core skill. We also do technically convert it to a basic, but what it does is it does damage to enemies as well as surrounding poison enemies. But 50% of its base damage gets added as poison over 6 seconds to all enemies hit. So that is the dot portion of it. So it has flat damage and then it has a dot section of it. Now, Touch of Death behaves differently. When we go over our Touch of Death build, I'll kind of explain that. But the first part can actually crit and overpower, which makes it so it's super good with Rada Kipilike, which is awesome because the build that a lot of people are playing is the Quill Volley build, and if you want to swap to something else just to mix it up, try something else out, maybe you're bored of the build, this is definitely something really cool because almost all of your gear is basically the same. The one exception would be instead of getting ranks to Quill Volley, you can get ranks to Stinger. But if you already have like ranks to core skills on your gloves, well, you're good to go. So it's a really easy transition build. There's only one glyph that you would have to level up, and you may actually have other glyphs that you can just sock it in. So it's just something really cool that if you want to play, you can go ahead and do that. But what makes Stinger really cool is it automatically applies vulnerability as long as you're healthy, but every single time you attack, it's going to make it so as long as you strike a vulnerable enemy, which is pretty easy to do because it automatically applies it, it's going to heal you for 10% of your maximum life, which if it activates 2 times, you get to heal 20% of your HP every single attack, which is, it's really busted. It really shouldn't work that way. Healing for, again, 20% of your life is crazy for any build. But anyways, now that we went over that, as far as like our little intro part, you can, by the way, play any of the key passives. You'll see in the gameplay, I actually try out all the passives. I mean, Spiritborn's so OP. I probably could have went way higher with this, but like you are just deleting forms of content with this build, and I really like it. Very easy to play. Again, huge amount of survivability. So for the skills, let's go over the skills right now. So with the skills, we're going to run Stinger. This is our source of damage. Then we run Ravager. This lets us teleport towards the target, which makes the build feel really snappy and good. Kind of like the Gorilla build if you've played that one. But again, this one's based off of poison. And then we have the Hunter, pretty much just utilized to have a jump. By the way, you can go through walls with this, so definitely use it to skip out on walls. And then we are also running Armor Hide, for extra resolve stacks, and then we run Scourge to actually gain another benefit. Now, you can run any key passive like I mentioned. If you want to get the bonuses with Armor Height to give you 2, you would need to put 2 more points in it. If you want to run the one that gives you ranks to the skills, then you can just put 3 points in it. It's up to you on what you want to go for, but it's pretty much you either put 1, 3, or 5. That's kind of like the numbers for this, and we'll go over the tree in a moment here. Then we run Scourge, just gives us more damage, and then we run Counterattack for extra bonuses. We get the like passive for survivability, but if you want to, you can run Vortex. The AoE, you guys can see, you can clean up content so fast. I didn't really feel like it was necessary to actually go for the pull, but you can see it's applying the poison sometimes even when the target's super far away, and that's why Stinger is so awesome, is just because you can hit the target, go to another target, and it'll still basically take ticks. It's a really fantastic and fun build for speed. Gorilla is also fantastic for speed, but we've already covered that build. But as far as the Spirit Halls, Jaguar as a primary, and then secondary as Eagle. You can flip-flop them if you want to, and the reason why you'd flip-flop them is because you can get more attack speed if you put Jaguar in secondary. We need Eagle, though. If you want to, well, Jaguar does give you a lot of crit, so it's pretty much required, but Eagle is also required because it gives you a lot of crit too. And this whole build, even though it's a dot build, which you normally wouldn't want to get crit, you actually do want to get crit because, well, again, this thing goes crazy in numbers. Again, I basically just used my older gear, which still had overpower on a lot of the things. However, if you want to completely reroll your stuff instead of overpower, you can make this number again go way higher, because crit already works as far as damage goes, and then on top of that, overpower already works, but then you get the other bonus multiplier that goes even further if you get the Noxious Resonant Key passive. Again, play whatever one that you want. Now that we went over the skills, let's go over the gear. So we're running an Ebiwaka, really good. It's again pretty much the best in slot for a lot of builds. And then Aspect of Interdiction over here, and you can see all the stuff that we have with rolls. You want to get maximum resolve stacks in every single spot. Redirected Force, again, you're getting all that crit. Binding Morass for extra crowd control, and then you get to deal another 20x damage to the slowed enemies. And then we have Duelist Aspect for even more ferocity, so more attack speed. And if you can get your resistances and armor to be as high as possible, honestly, getting armor is more important than resistances, but once you're at 1,000 armor, you could try to get some resistances. Anywhere from like 30 to 50 is totally okay. Don't feel like you have to max out with this because it is the Spiritborn. The class is so OP anyways. And then we run a Keeper Like. We want the chance for core skills to hit twice. This is what we're looking for. And then we run Banish Sword's Talisman. Again, it's probably not intended to work this way, but it works, so hey, I'm going to show you guys the way it works right now, and then if it gets nerfed, I'll update you guys in the future. But this does not work with Touch of Death because that just applies dots. You see that big chunk, by the way? Like, you chunk out the bosses is crazy. And then Midnight Sun to regain all of our vigor that we've spent, and then on top of that, it gives us some small stats here and there, but for the most part, you're really here just for the resources that it's generating. Make sure you try to get like 47 plus on the roll on your Midnight Sun. And then we run Moonrise. If you want to, you can still play the Mystic Circle, but I do not like the Mystic Circle because I don't want to stand in it. You can see actually right here, this is actually kind of important, so let me go ahead and move this out of the way. I was playing around with all the key passives. Like, I was trying them. You could play Prodigy's Tempo. You can play literally any of them in the game. The build just still dominates. In fact, I should have probably went way higher for the gameplay, but I just want to level up the things really fast, like the glyphs. And the difference between going like 10 tiers, I mean, it could be another 20 seconds, which it might not sound like that much, but when you're leveling up so many glyphs, it slowly does add up. Anyways, for the active runes, we're running Zolzal. So this is going to be when we invoke a power, we're going to get extra life. Extra life equals more damage because more overpower. And then we run Pock Q. Pock Q is to generate the Earthen Bulwark. So that's how we have the Bulwark. And again, our HP doesn't drop like at all. So the one thing that I do really like with this build is you never have to pop a potion, like straight up ever. In fact, when I make most of my Spiritborn builds, I always incorporate one node that makes it so we pretty much never have to pop a potion. And I like that because it makes it so it's one less button to push. For the gems, it really doesn't really matter too much. Just cap out on your armor first, and then if you need resistances, you go for it. But then we run extra barrier. But this one, I mean, you're going to put this in your weapon anyways, but you definitely want to put in emeralds if you don't have these yet. Anyways, next up, as far as the skill tree, let me go ahead and make this a little bit larger so you guys can actually read this. So for starters, we are running... if I could zoom in here properly. So the first 2 points literally don't matter. Then it's a Stinger build. We want this one over here where we get to actually do the vulnerable. In fact, it's so much better than Rampart as well. It's weird how it kind of interacts. Like this one, you would think that it's much better because instead of it echoing to the poison enemies, it now draws from each hit to hit again for another 10% of its base damage. I tried it out. It didn't seem like it was as good. I believe it's because it's not able to proc the other bonuses properly with its secondary, like the other percent. But as far as my testing goes, yeah, and honestly, this one's just way better. Otherwise, you have to apply exploit in the glyph, and then you kind of lose out on another multiplier. We're running balanced, vigorous over here. We're maxing out this, maxing out all of those, and then we get the extra damage, and then we're also getting the focal point because we need to. If you want to run diminishment, that's totally fine. There's this over here where we could run this for increased damage while unhindered or unstoppable. Honestly, this point over here where it says you get increased dodge chance during evade, I mean, that's totally fine, but it doesn't really matter too much. You don't really need the crit. I just put 1 point because increased dodge chance during evade, so you can try to evade maybe some of the boss attacks, but feel free to drop it if you want to. It's just 1 point there. And then I really like putting 1 point into fueled, so when we kill stuff, it works, but pretty much with this build, you could drop this one if you want to. If you are playing with this one over here, Produce Tempo, this is actually something important to mention. If you play with Produce Tempo, you do want 3 points into it. Now, if you want to play the crit variant, then I would recommend you guys to actually not put in 3 points for this. So let me go actually do this. So if you want to run Produce Tempo, again, you can put 3 points. If not, I would put 1 point into the Armored Hide. And the reason why is it only gives you that bonus once you're at 5. Otherwise, it doesn't give you the bonus. Heck, you could drop this one over here. You get some extra DR. It's kind of up to you. There's a lot of flexibility with this build, so go ahead and choose kind of the stuff that you want to. But I really like, again, Fueled. Definitely don't skip out on that on a lot of the Spiritborn builds. Just makes the quality of life much better. Now, we do still cast a Gorilla skill, even though like our main skill doesn't count as a Gorilla skill. It just works. And then this one also has increased damage to knockdown, but it doesn't really matter too much for this one. Unless you want to convert it to Gorilla, that is technically another option, but it's really not that big of a deal. You can just slam more points into the Hunter if you want to swap any of these, but this is probably what I would recommend. There's also Ravenous, which gives you extra increased centipede damage, and there's another X multiplier called Oppressive. If you want to, again, you could put more points into here. This one over here is pretty nice to have the ability to spam it so you can get all of these bonuses on the ultimate. Now, if you prefer the build with Produce Tempo, then you don't need to put more points in the Hunter because you'll pretty much have it up most of the time. But if you want to spam it a little bit less, then you can run Noxious, which gives you the poison multiplier. Again, there's a lot of flexibility with this build as it does so much damage anyways, but this is kind of what I would recommend. So if you want to, you can convert to Gorilla and then you can have that chance to eliminate something. But for the most part, it's this. I would say this is kind of like the go-to, getting all of the bonus damages. But again, Noxious Resonance, really fun. And Vital Strikes was surprisingly really good too, because you're always able to apply the vulnerability to the enemies. Remember, it hits twice, so it applies it, then it removes it instantly. And then on top of that, you are going to be able to get a bonus depending on what you use. If you want to try Adaptive Stances, you could actually get extra life per second, but I feel like that one is unnecessary. But if you want to, hey, you can go for it. I literally played all of them in the gameplay, and they're all great. I probably wouldn't really recommend Adaptive Stance because it's the base of Centipede. If it was the base of Jaguar, it'd be a little bit better. But like I said, I literally tried all of them. It totally is fine. If you really want to go push the highest in the pit, though, I'd probably would recommend Nox or Tempo or Vital Strikes. I just probably wouldn't recommend this one, though. Again, run whatever one that you prefer. And then as far as the Paragon board, we're going to be starting out with Spirit again. We want all of that crit. Later, you can start filling these out. In the earlier stages, though, don't worry about getting all these numbers to get really, really high in terms of how many points that are in here. We just are pretty much trying to touch all of the bonuses. Like, we want the bare minimum at least. The reason why is because we get some sort of bonus when we hit it's usually some sort of X multiplier. So then we go into the Sapping Menagerist. The reason why we want this is it gives us extra bonuses on the max resource. That's actually quite important. And then the next one, we can get Vicious Shield and Talent. This is why we need it to be an Eagle skill, because it gives bonuses to Eagle skills. So, well, we need to convert it to an Eagle skill, and that's why we love Ebiwaka in every single build. And then we have Colossal. That's for the Resolve stacks. More Resolve equals more damage. That's why we want to temper and as much Resolve stacking as possible. Now, we do not get the additive bonus with the Gorilla skills, which is unfortunate, but still numerically, if you happen to have Resolve stacks, this is worth it. Now, if you don't have any of the Resolve stacks, you can actually swap it in for Exploit or whatever you want to, because, again, we don't get the first part of it. because it will not work. And then we get damage to close enemies, which is like totally fine because, well, we're going to be attacking close enemies anyways. And then we have Bane over here. This is the one glyph where it is a little bit different since this is poison here. And this is making it so poison effects have a 15% chance to deal double the amount of damage over their duration, but it doesn't really feel that way, like in terms of like, it doesn't feel like it takes a long time for it to tick, because remember, this is just going to instantly do the poison damage. So normally with any dot build in any action RPG, you have like a timer in terms of like how good it is going to be. It does take time, but this removes that part of like a dot build. It's basically a dot build that just feels like it's a regular build. Hopefully that kind of makes some sense, but that's going to be it for the skill tree and everything. As far as the Mercenary goes, I guess this is a new tab. I just noticed it. So shout out to Mobilix for updating. As far as that goes, I'd probably recommend Subo. In fact, I have a guide that goes over like the best Mercenary, and I would say Subo is really great unless you're doing pushing. Pushing right here is probably objectively better, but Subo is really great for being able to reveal all the things on the map. And this is mainly designed as kind of a speed build for like up to 100. Anything past 100, sure, you could probably squeeze out 120 with this build if you really min-max. But again, I would say Quill Volley is going to be your awesome build if you want to just blast and do the highest tier. If you want to do 150s, this build will not do it. You guys need to check out the Quill Volley build for that one. Anyways, that's going to wrap things up. Let me know, guys, what you think of the Stinger build. If there's any cool other discoveries, you guys let me know, as I thought this was really interesting that you can actually overpower on a skill that is supposed to kind of be a poison skill. Again, technically, it's worded to work, but I don't think poison should be able to, well, poison is made as a dot skill usually in video games, and that's how it's kind of activating in Diablo. However, it does work currently, but if it gets updated or if it gets nerfed, I'll let you guys know. But it's a fun build. It's still definitely really good, and if, let's say, the Quillville gets absolutely destroyed, I would say the Gorilla, like the Crushing Fist and Stinger, are actually looking pretty solid. But heck, anything is really good with the Spiritborn because the class is so busted right now. Anyways, have some fun with it, guys. The link will be down below in case you missed out on anything or you want to like kind of check it out, and I'll be updating this guide if we need to in the future. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. And if you're new here and you want to see an update to this as well as other builds, because we got the Touch of Death build coming out very soon, and it's another poison build. And we're also going to be making Dark. We have a lot of awesome builds coming out. Basically, some of the more fun stuff is what I plan to actually upload within the next like week or two here. Anyways, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.